Karaoke is a platform for young aspiring singers to shine and express their musical abilities. Tune in to CBC TV 8 on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. and repeat it on Saturdays at 2 p.m. and enjoy the performances of these talented young singers.
For the past 19 years, QFM has been sharing with you, learning from you, and together building a community for all mature audiences. That's why we say Q is good for you. To our Q family, we say thank you for staying connected to Q 100.7 FM. QFM is a station of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. CBC, celebrating 60, connecting Barbadian communities. Are you a youth group, 4-H club, school, Cub Scout or Brownie Pack, or any organization or club with children ages 4 to 11 years? If yes is the answer, then we at Fun School, we're looking for you. Let's have fun singing, dancing, listening to amazing stories, doing craft, and so much more. I'm such a kid at heart. But to be part of this fun and exciting new season of Fun School, just simply send an email to Alicia Alves Grant at aa.grant@cbc.bb for further details. Fun School is back, and we're looking for you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb, and together we will travel the world.
Oh, hi. My name is Stacia Whitaker, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and a member of the Heart and Stroke Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition. My motto is, when in doubt, leave it out, and it goes for when I'm eating, because sometimes things have ingredients that we're not sure of, and I like to keep it simple. And if I'm eating something and I'm not sure the ingredients in that particular thing, then I choose to leave it out. So I keep my snacking simple with fruit, nuts, or just water. It's easy to remember, there's no added ingredients, and it's also very nutritious. So remember, childhood obesity is real, so choose healthier alternatives. And when in doubt, leave it out.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb. From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kia Lewis, General Practitioner and Healthy Lifestyle Advocate. Good nutrition starts at home. So this school year, I want you to consider packing healthy, nutritious snacks and lunches for your children to carry, rather than having them buy them at school. And don't just pack things you think they should have. Have a discussion and come up with things that you both know they will enjoy.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love cruise.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music.
It's something different. It's spectacular. It's fabulous. You know, it's a different feeling altogether.
I never feel so good in a party yet.
Follow me to Q in the Community this Thursday.
So good in a party yet. You know why?
My friend, you don't plan to get it? Oh, Barbados. Hey, I'm KB Clean. Join me 6 a.m. until 10 a.m. right here at 94.7, the best and ultimate Bajan experience. My show is called Bajan to the Bone. Don't miss it, Bajan to the Bone. Weekdays right here and only here on 94.7.
I'm Anne St. John, a consultant pediatrician. When packing healthy lunch boxes, do include a fruit, which includes a banana, apple, orange, or grapes to supply fiber. Aim for low-calorie packaged snacks without the mention of flour or sugar amongst the four ingredients on the back label. 1 in 3 children in Barbados is affected by overweight or obesity. Let us join together as parents and
Good morning, I'm Wendy Burke, and this is the CBC Morning Report for Monday, January 29th. A major push is on to boost literacy by getting Barbadians to read more. The National Library Service is behind the move to get people back in the libraries across the island.
The quest to get Barbadians to read more began Saturday at this idyllic library setting at the Eric Holder Municipal Complex at Tamarind Hall, St. Joseph. It is from there that the leadership, along with other employees of the National Library Service, set off into the surrounding villages of Horse Hill, Blackmans, and Andrews Tenantry.
This morning we're going into the St. Joseph communities to bring awareness to the library, especially the Tamarind Hall Branch Library, which is part of their community. And we would like them to come to the library, take part in the activities that are offered, come and gather information. The library is a hub for information. We not only have books, but we have computers, free internet access, Wi-Fi, and we want to encourage literacy wherever possible into the communities for the persons to take advantage of what is being offered for them. And what they need to know is that we're here not only at Tamarind Hall, but there are 7 branch libraries across Barbados and the main library at Bridgetown, so that they can utilize the services of the National Library Service.
Jennifer Yard is the acting director of the National Library Service. She sees the exercise as critical to the development of Barbadian children.
The National Library Service is trying to rebuild a culture of literacy in Barbados. You know, years gone by, people used to come to the library, they used to flock to the library, especially children on Saturday mornings, but that to a large extent has dwindled. What we are trying to do now is get the community back into the library, get them involved in literacy development, get parents to, because we have a family literacy program where we encourage the parents to read to their children, bring the children to the library, go back to the old days when literacy and reading was central to children's development. And that is something that we are focusing on, and we engage the community. We are now in the process of engaging our community more than ever because, as I said, children do not come to the library before, so we are now going out to them. So we have as I said, programs at the polyclinic. We would go and encourage the parents to read and introduce children to books and the love of reading. We also go to the day nurseries and we read to the children there. We have a very vibrant program in the day nurseries. And we do a lot of programs for children, especially because I believe that in order to have a strong foundation, we have to start a strong foundation in literacy development. We have to start at the bottom.
Their first stop was at Andrews Tenantry, where they spoke to 2 secondary school students. The brothers promised to read more.
I would try to get out by the library, try to learn a little, something new, read a few new books. See what getting on. Yeah, that's it.
And I used to go in the library before, so it's like, I would just pay a visit and see if it got any books that I like. So, I would just pay a visit again.
The library officials admit that the numbers visiting the facility have decreased, especially since COVID, and they're appealing to the public to visit and utilize the services, which include computers and free Wi-Fi.
Prime Minister Mayor Amor Motley sees the recent launch of a book by a noted Barbadian as especially appropriate and timely, given its emphasis on the importance of faith in times of trouble. The Prime Minister made the comment during a special ceremony at the James Street Methodist Church to officially launch the book of spiritual advisor to the Cabinet of Barbados, Reverend Dr. Adrian Smith. The book is entitled Faith in the Crisis.
In our region, in our country, who need reinforcement and who sometimes may not exactly understand what it is they are facing and may not understand how to anchor their faith. There is nothing like being able to have something to motivate your mental thoughts. This book will allow many able to do so.
Meanwhile, the author, thankful for all of the support he received in making the book a reality, he also encouraged others with similar dreams of writing their own books to do so.
Now it's time to encourage some of you under the sound of my voice to birth that which God has deposited in you. This work for me is just the expression of the many thoughts, visions, dreams, sermons, thoughts, ideas that God has laid on my heart. And in the same way, I was challenged to believe that the churches of Barbados need it, the nation needs it, the Caribbean needs it, the body of Christ needs it, the world needs it. Each of us needs to step out in faith. Each of us needs to have faith and to do what God is calling us to do.
Coming up, the CBC Morning Report, Brazilian troops prepare for possible deployment to Haiti.
I'm Anne St. John, a consultant pediatrician. When packing healthy lunch boxes, do include a fruit, which includes a banana, apple, orange, or grapes to supply fiber. Aim for low-calorie packaged snacks without the mention of flour or sugar amongst the four ingredients on the back label. 1 in 3 children in Barbados is affected by overweight or obesity. Let us join together as parents and care providers to reduce the further development of this chronic non-communicable disease within our communities.
Troops of the Belize Defense Force continue to train for possible deployment to Haiti as a part of a multinational task force. But recent developments where Kenya's High Court ruled against the plan has Belizeans questioning what next. Minister of State in the Ministry of Defense, Oscar Mira, says all the training was undertaken in Belize.
We have Canadian forces here in the country who are giving us that training. At the beginning, we have a list of 50 personnel. We will train more so that we have a pool of BDF officers who can be deployed to Haiti. But that training is happening here in country. It's not happening somewhere else. There has not been a decision as yet as to deployment to Haiti. CARICOM is still looking, and CARICOM is still deciding when would be the best. We want to ensure that our soldiers are well prepared, that the soldiers that are deployed are well trained, they have all the equipment and have everything that they need before a decision is made. A decision has not been made yet, but as the BDF does, they are preparing in the eventuality that the cabinet decides that we are going to deploy. BDF is already prepared and trained.
As the Bahamas government aggressively moves to eradicate unregulated communities, Works and Family Island Affairs Minister Clay Sweeting has told residents of Abaco he's received calls from people hoping the government would turn a blind eye to those living in shanty towns. Like the irregular communities in New Providence, residents were given 28 days to remove the structures and leave the premises or face eviction. Our News has the story.
And there will be numerous phone calls to say, you can knock down that one, but don't knock down this one, because that's they mine. Guaranteed. I know I had the phone calls to Nassau. I said we could grant a piece of land to them. I'll pay for it, or something to that effect. So if we could be serious about it, we got to be serious together.
The government moved aggressively to demolish shanty towns in New Providence, but not without pushback. An assessment has revealed 239 illegal structures were identified in the Gaza and Gully shantytowns in Abaco without approval. The plan is to demolish 10 structures, and according to Sweeting, 4 generators were confiscated due to environmental and fire concerns. Like the irregular communities in New Providence, residents were given 28 days to remove the structures and leave the premises or face eviction.
Serious. I know some people don't think that we're serious, but I'm a Sigillian. And if I tell you something, it's going to happen. So I can tell you, we ain't come to play.
It was then time to hear from Abaconians who say they've been plagued with the issue for decades.
So we need to know, where are these people going when the homes are broken down? The second thing is, what measures are going to be put in place to prevent this from happening again?
There will be regular patrols. We already do it in Nassau for the 2 communities now, by immigration and the police, and also a hotline. Okay. So they'll have a community center set up so you could call and to report.
In Guyana, the Ministry of Public Health, Dr. Kieran Cummins, has strongly criticized the government for recruiting foreign nurses. It says it could have provided improved remuneration packages and additional benefits to local nurses. HGP TV reports.
Opposition Member of Parliament Dr. Kieran Cummins, in her budget debate, urged the government to holistically address the nationwide shortage of nurses. Dr. Cummins said recruiting foreign nurses is merely a quick fix to this dire situation.
The call by this government to address this shortage of nurses by bringing foreigners nurses is unacceptable. This government has no respect for the judiciary and certainly no respect for the nurses. They are not on the side of our healthcare workers.
While acknowledging infrastructural developments in the health sector, Cummins pointed out that without a sufficient quota of nurses and doctors to fill the void, citizens will not be better off.
We know that Guyana has been going through a personnel crisis with nurses and doctors leaving in droves. Failing to acknowledge the root cause of this crisis, which is a need for competitive wages, the government has imprudently announced 6 new hospital projects.
Dr. Cummins also highlighted the crucial need for urgent attention to be placed on added incentives for midwives and addressing socioeconomic factors affecting maternal health. Promoting equality and emphasizing the importance a father plays in the life of a child were among other areas the MP says must be given priority.
Syrian refugees in the Middle East are facing uncertainty because of deteriorating conditions in host countries. Struggling economies and declining international aid are pushing some refugees to try to reach Europe illegally. Al Jazeera's Zina Cord reports.
Ayat Masalmi is a refugee from Syria living in Jordan. The 25-year-old is a widow and a mother who now doesn't have any source of income. The last time she saw her husband was in May, before he set off on a journey in search of a better life for his family.
When the smugglers took him from Benghazi to Tobruk, he called me to tell me that everything was fine. That was the last time we spoke.
Mohammed is among those missing and feared dead in a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in June. It was one of the worst migrant boat disasters in the Mediterranean.
At first, he did not want to go, but then he realized it was the only way to secure a future for our children.
Syrian refugees in Jordan have few choices. Their economic and social vulnerabilities have been aggravated by declining international support. The UN agency responsible for refugees says this has come at a human cost.
UNHCR is observing that more and more refugees take dangerous routes towards Europe, including through Libya, and then take on the dangerous journey on boats to Europe. And we've seen this number on the rise. And what is really heartbreaking is that those cases that we analyzed have lived here for more than 10 years. So they must have lost the belief in a life in Jordan.
Jordan has repeatedly said it does not have the capacity to cater for the roughly 1.3 million Syrian refugees already in the country. Officials had hoped re-engagement with President Bashar al-Assad would lead to refugees returning home. So far, Damascus has not facilitated the process. Instead, Syrians say they face uncertainty, and not just in Jordan. Deportations are increasing in other countries that neighbor Syria.
What choices do Syrians have? Make the dangerous journey to Europe or return to Syria, where there are no services, no jobs?
It's why Muhammad took the risk.
I always wonder what happened to Muhammad. Was he hungry, thirsty, afraid? What did he feel as he was drowning?
Muhammad was not the first Syrian refugee to disappear at sea. He's unlikely to be the last.
Two men in Houston are accused of posing as funeral directors to steal thousands of dollars of life insurance money. Bryce Newberry has more on the scheme.
My son got killed, and for him to come and take advantage of us, that's not right.
Anita Thomas is one.
I have never heard of anybody doing this, but this man needs to be buried under the jail.
Shadamis Hicks is another, both united in grief, but caught in a scheme.
It turns my stomach because you're dealing with people at the most vulnerable time of their lives.
Investigators from Harris County Precinct 1 Constable Alan Rosen's office arrested 26-year-old Javon Major and 38-year-old Sandy Broussard, him for forgery and her for theft, after a tip from the Texas Funeral Commission. He posed as a licensed funeral director and mortician, investigators say. The pair forged signatures of beneficiaries and got life insurance money of dead people.
Funerals were supposed to take place, and there would be no funeral. Embalming was supposed to take place on some of these family members, and it didn't happen.
When I walked in and I looked at my son, his body was bloated. He was dark.
This victim says Major didn't embalm her son properly.
I had to run out to church because I couldn't deal with the smell.
It's time now to preview what's coming up on Morning Barbados. We're going to be talking to Dr. Vikash Chatrani this morning Yes, it's Cervical Awareness Month, and we're going to be talking to him about that. And you too can get to talk to him because you can call in this morning to speak with the doctor. We're also going to hear about data privacy challenges. Yes, we're going to be talking with the head of cyber and technology at KPMG in Jamaica, Mr. Ravi Sankar, all about that. And the Heart and Stroke Foundation are also going to be here, and we'll be discussing a number of things in that area with them. As you know, this is one of the areas we have to be concerned about, and we're going to be going red with them. We will also get to see the second segment of that interview with American actor Yaya Mclean. So all that and more coming up on Morning Barbados. But first, more news, sports, and weather after the break.
I'm Anne St. John, a consultant pediatrician. When packing healthy lunch boxes, do include a fruit, which includes a banana, apple, orange, or grapes to supply fiber. Aim for low-calorie packaged snacks without the mention of flour or sugar amongst the four ingredients on the back label. 1 in 3 children in Barbados is affected by overweight or obesity. Let us join together as parents and care providers to reduce the further development of this chronic non-communicable disease within our communities.
Kids Karaoke is a platform for young aspiring singers to shine and express their musical abilities. Tune in to CBC TV 8 on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. and repeat it on Saturdays at 2 p.m. and enjoy the performances of these talented young singers.
One organization has made a promise to work with the government of Barbados to make the breathalyzer test a reality this year. It's the Make It Safe organization, which gave the commitment during a church service at the Bethel Methodist Church. Director John Herbert says its mandate is to create a safer environment for the people of Barbados, and one of the initiatives at the forefront of that is the breathalyzer testing. He says they're willing to work with the government to make it happen.
Make It Safe will seek to work and assist the government with how we can have the long-awaited breathalyzer testing implemented. We wish to partner with the government to keep our roads safe. And for those of you who don't know what a breathalyzer test is, it is a device that measures your blood, your alcoholic level in your blood alcoholic level.
Mr. Herbert gave some alarming statistics for road fatalities around the globe.
We are told that in excess of 1 million people worldwide die every year from road traffic accidents. Think about that. In excess of 1 million people die every year due to traffic accidents. Another 50 million worldwide are injured. And what is particularly troubling about this statistic is that, according to the World Health Organization, the countries who can least afford it have to cover the cost of these deaths and accidents.
An amazing bowling spell of high-class fast bowling by Shamar Joseph lifted the West Indies to a sensational 8-run victory over world champions Australia in the second and final test at the Gabba. It was the Windies' first victory down under since 1997. Player of the series, Joseph snapped up 7 for 68 as the Aussies were bowled out for 207, chasing 216 for the win. Time now to take a look at our weather picture for today. The barometric pressure stands at 1014.5 millibars and the temperature 24.1 degrees Celsius. The humidity is 93%, with the winds coming from the southeast at 15 kilometers per hour. It's presently cloudy with light showers. The seas are moderate in open water with swells ranging from 1.5 to 2 meters and increasing. The tides, the first high tide was at 5:57 a.m. and the second will be at 6:08 p.m. The first low tide will be at 11:53 a.m. In Barbados for today, cloudy with a few scattered light to moderate showers, at first becoming a mix of sunshine and clouds with a few isolated showers by afternoon. And tonight is expected to be partly cloudy. Coming up on Morning Barbados, we're going to get to speak with consultant gynecologist and obstetrician Dr. Vikash Chatrani.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, morning, Barbados, good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
It's Monday morning, the start of a brand new week. We're almost at the end of January. Almost, but not quite there yet. I'm hoping you have a great week. Never mind those little occasional showers out there. It's going to be a great day. This morning, we're going to be having on the show the consultant obstetrician and gynecologist and a gynecological oncologist. He'll tell us what that is. Dr. Vikash Chatrani, welcome to you.
Morning, Wendy. Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, it is still Cervical Cancer Awareness Month. And one of the things we talk about a lot in terms of knowing whether or not one may be presenting with cancer of that particular region is that of a pap smear. How important is it to get one?
Well, cervical cancer, as you know, is the #2 most common gynecological cancer there is in women. And a pap smear is a test that can actually find abnormalities in the cervix to prevent cervical cancer. So cervical cancer is one of those cancers that you can actually eradicate and prevent completely.
Okay. Now, in terms of telling women they have pap smears, it's not every individual who is necessarily comfortable with their body or having certain tests done. They think they might be invasive, what have you. But have you found in your years of practice that people may get offended by the thought of telling them that they need to have this particular test done?
Well, since the 1970s, women have accepted the pap smear as part of their DNA. They go to the doctor, they ask for it. It is an intrusive test. It's not comfortable for women to, first of all, expose their private parts, sit down on a bed, expose their genitalia. And when we do a pap smear, we actually pass a device called a speculum, which is inserted into the vagina to help visualize the cervix. And then cells are taken from the cervix with a brush and sent to the lab for analysis. Now, women have done very good. Since the 1970s, as I said, they've accepted it as part of their DNA, and they come forward and they ask for screening. And since the introduction of the pap smear, we've seen a decline in cervical cancer incidence.
Okay.
And it was only, say, in the early 2000s that we saw a plateau where we saw no further decline. And then that's when the introduction of the HPV vaccine kind of changed the whole dynamics with regards to cervical cancer care. Because for those who don't know, cervical cancer in over 99% of cases is caused by a virus called the human papilloma virus. And this is a virus that is spread from skin to skin contact. Most women will encounter this virus at some point in their lifetime. And cervical cancer is a cancer that occurs in the early 30s, and again has another bimodal peak in the age 60 population. So if we start cervical cancer screening with a Papa Nicolau smear, you can actually pick up abnormalities that can lead to cervical cancer, lay her down, treat those abnormalities, and prevent cervical cancer.
Since you're speaking to that, in terms of the whole early detection process, what are the stats like in terms of finding more women faster?
So women are actually very good. They're unlike the men. The men don't like to go and see the umpire to get their prostate checked. They shy away from the digital rectal exam. They more opt for the PSA test for their prostate cancer. But with women, we find complete opposite. Women are health-seeking individuals where they come forward, they come for their yearly tests. We have actually changed the incidence in which you need to undergo a Pap screen, and we've pushed it to 2, even 3 years, and then we actually do HPV testing. So we don't find that challenge with women.
Okay. How is the HPV testing done?
Same way as how a Pap smear.
Okay.
So the same sample that you get from your Pap test can be sent for further testing, where it goes and it gets HPV high-risk typing done too as well. Because people get scared. I mean, HPV is so common, is like when you get the cold, it doesn't mean that you will get pneumonia and die. Your body has an immune system that has the ability to fight itself. So the same way, if you get an HPV infection, you'll be completely asymptomatic, but it doesn't mean you will get cancer. Okay. If you are healthy, you live a healthy lifestyle, and you have a robust immune system, you can actually get rid of the infection on your own. It's only
your body will actually eliminate it.
Yeah, we tend to heal ourselves on our own in a lot of circumstances. But if you get persistent infection with the high-risk strains, then there's the opportunity for cancer to develop. And that's where the Pap smear becomes important. Because if you can detect abnormalities before it gets to the pre-cancer stage, you can treat these abnormalities. And that's where the vaccine became very important.
And that's what we're coming to now in terms of giving that vaccine, because I think I remember them starting it in the secondary, recommending it for secondary school children as well. And in some places, it's not only the girls that they encourage to get the vaccine, but men as well. And I want to know why. Can they pass on those cells to women?
So the HPV, or the human papilloma vaccine, has been in effect since 2007. Barbados has had the vaccine for about over 10 years. And what they have found is that women or girls who are sexually naive, who've never had intercourse, if they're vaccinated, you can actually boost their immune system, so when they do come into contact with the virus, they have antibodies that they can actually eradicate the virus and prevent persistent infection. Now, the virus is transmitted from skin to skin contact, so little children with warts on their fingers, if you're not aware, that's actually HPV, the human papilloma virus. So there are over 140 types of HPV, but only 40 affect below the belt, meaning in the gynecological region.
I want you to repeat that for me. Over how many types?
There are over 140, maybe 150 types of HPV, human papilloma virus. So there are different serotypes, but there are only 40 that affect below the belt, meaning the gynecological region, and out of those 40, only about a third of those are high risk. What does high risk mean? Those are the ones that can cause persistent infection. So when we vaccinate girls, we're actually vaccinating with the high risk serotypes. So what that does, it gives their body extra immunity against those infections.
How do these infections manifest themselves?
So there are no symptoms from infection. They're completely asymptomatic. They have HPV serotype 6 and 11 that can cause warts, and these vaccines actually do cover those two serotypes. But because cervical abnormalities is a completely asymptomatic disease, we encourage women to come forward and get screening.
So which is a silent disease.
So that's cervical abnormalities, not cervical cancer. Cervical cancer does have symptoms, and obviously we would love to find all the abnormalities before it progresses into cervical cancer, but I do want women to be aware what symptoms to look out for, symptoms of cervical cancer.
And what are they?
So obviously, you know, menstrual cycles come every month, and there's for a set period of time, 3 to 5, 7 days. If you have bleeding in between your periods, meaning you finished your period and you get spotting, that may be an abnormality that can suggest cervical cancer. If you get bleeding after intercourse, postcoital bleeding, that may be an abnormality that can suggest cervical cancer. If you get a foul-smelling discharge, that may be a sign of cervical cancer. If you get pain during intercourse, or you're experiencing pelvic pain. And because the cervix is so closely related to the bladder, sometimes it mimics bladder symptoms like that of a UTI.
Bladder infection or UTI.
Correct.
Okay.
So you know when women feel that little discomfort down there and they go to their pharmacist and they get an antibiotic for a UTI, and the symptoms
Or
may...
they drink lots of cranberry.
Correct. These symptoms may persist, and that's where we then encourage them, look, just go and get checked. Make sure your cervix is okay, get your pap smear, let your doctor examine you, because early disease can be treated well.
Okay. And is there any possibility whatsoever that a pap smear may not detect all if some person is in the danger zone and they might need additional tests?
Right. So you have to remember when we're doing a pap smear, we should be doing it in a completely asymptomatic population. It's a screening test. So we can't just visualize the cervix. Obviously, if you see the cervix and there's something some abnormality on the cervix, the pap smear may not be the best test in that scenario. Okay. That patient should be referred to a gynecologist and they do a colposcopy. Big word. Colpo just means cervix in Latin, oscopy means to look at. So instead of taking cells off the cervix and sending it to the lab, we actually visualize the cervix directly with a scope, with a microscope, and then we can pick up different abnormalities that can detect cervical cancer. Okay. So that's the step that is actually done when you have an abnormal pap smear. Women with an abnormal pap smear are referred for colposcopy.
Okay, well, it's getting really interesting. Remember, if you have any queries about it, you can call Dr. Chattrani this morning, 228-5562, 228-5563. We'll be back after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And we're back with Dr. Chattrani. We're talking all about cervical cancer. It's the month to be aware of it. Now, Doc, in terms of the month of January, have there been any things that have jumped out at you in terms of the awareness programming you've been doing? What changes have you been seeing in our female population?
Well, as I mentioned before, women are very proactive. So the month of January is Teal Month, cervical cancer awareness. We do find a lot of women scheduling their annual appointments in January, same way they schedule their mammogram in October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So we see them coming forward. And it's always, it's like your New Year resolution to make sure your body and your private parts are in good health, and they seek out physicians to come and do their internals, do their screening, and make sure their body is well.
Okay. Now, you'd mentioned that in terms of the HPV, there's only 2 strains really that you can tell are there, and that's because they produce the warts. Now, for those who may not be aware, what are warts and how would they manifest themselves? Is it within the vaginal walls? Is it on the vulva? Where do you detect and see it?
So HPV 6 and 11 are actually 2 strains that cause over 90% of vulval and vaginal warts. Warts are basically these small benign growths that can occur on the lips of the vagina or actually inside the vagina. So they manifest as a small bump, couple of millimeters in size. Sometimes they can be itchy, and they are passed on from unprotected intercourse. Okay. Treatment, sometimes your body actually has a good immune system and they can resolve on their own. You find some of them actually start to grow, and that's when women present and say, oh, they feel this bump down below. You take a look at it. And there are different solutions that we can put on them to help your body heal them, or even to freeze them off, basically.
Okay, and a woman would know the difference in terms of that and say if they suffer with ingrown hair.
Oh yes, for sure. These are more pedunculated or sessile in their appearance.
What's pedunculated?
So I was trying to say, they basically have a stem, and then they have a growth on it. So it's like a grape, but not as big as a grape. Very small, 2 to 3 millimeters. Versus when you have an ingrown hair, that is actually coming from the surface of the skin.
Okay, so we will know what to look out for. Remember, you can call us 228-5562, 228-5563. We have the gynecologic oncologist with us, so he can tell you all about cancers and how they present. Now, in terms of the early detection process and the treatment, what is our success rate like?
So, as I mentioned, women do come forward. I mean, if we look at it, we see approximately 40 cases of cervical cancer per year. And even though women come forward and get screened, there are a subset of the population who do not. And when they present, they may present with early stages. Majority of cervical cancer, when they present, these are women who are not seeking health care, actually present in a little more advanced stage. And we have good turnaround times when it comes to diagnosing and then obviously referring for treatment for cervical cancer. With regards to early detection, I think the biggest fight against cervical cancer now is the HPV vaccine. And we have introduced that in Barbados since approximately 2013, so just over 10 years ago. Okay. And why we targeted schools with girls transitioning from primary to secondary school is because they've kind of studied this internationally. And obviously you want to have a targeted campaign, you want to get young girls vaccinated so that you can reap the benefits as they reach their reproductive age.
Okay. Now, when we talk about cancers, but there's something I'm concerned about, and I'm wondering if those left untreated could also maybe perhaps develop into cancers. And that's this whole area of the PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids. If untreated, could those perhaps become?
So no, those are three different pathologies that you mentioned. PCOS, or polycystic ovarian syndrome, is more like a hormonal imbalance. It's a metabolic disorder, and if it leads to things like irregular periods, excessive hair growth, and androgen excess, and then you may detect it on ultrasound too as well. That is more an obesity-related disease. So it does lead to, it is caused by an unhealthy lifestyle, but there are modalities that we can implement with regards to treatment to get it under control. Endometriosis, very debilitating disease, actually causes very painful periods, pelvic pain, can also lead to infertility. That's another one, unlikely to become cancerous, even though we have seen few cases where endometriosis has become cancer. And then uterine fibroids, very common in our population. Over 80% of women have uterine fibroids, but a lot of women don't know.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Are they aware?
No, because you can have small fibroids and they not be symptomatic. And we only address uterine fibroids if they're providing or causing symptoms. And only 25% of women who have fibroids actually have symptoms. And this is a condition that affects the corpus uterus, or the body of the uterus. There are benign muscular growths, and the symptoms that they can cause are things like heavy periods, painful periods, problems with fertility, or pressure-related symptoms because of the size in which they grow to. They can press on the bladder, press on the back passage, or you can actually feel a mass or a lump in your pelvic area.
But then there's sometimes that grow to an excessive size, and there's some people who are even mistaken for being pregnant.
Yes, so we have seen them in excess of a breadfruit size. Fibroids, if left unattended, can actually grow very large. And then they get more pressure symptoms associated with this. Yes, they may appear pregnant too as well, early pregnant, and usually in those cases they usually require surgical management. You need to remove those fibroids to kind of release the pressure around the surrounding organs.
Okay, you mentioned infertility. Are there any stats to show how many women that do have fibroids and endo that become infertile?
So it's not common. A lot of women may have undiagnosed endometriosis or small fibroids, and this not affect your fertility at all. We've had pregnant patients with fibroids, with endometriosis. Actually, endometriosis gets better in pregnancy, because if you understand the whole biology of endometriosis, your lining sheds every month when you have a period. Endometriosis is the presence of that lining outside the uterus. So the same way you bleed and you shed that lining every month, you may actually be bleeding internally. And women don't know this if it's mild, because they just attribute their discomfort or pain to menstrual cramps. When you are pregnant, you don't get periods for 9 months. You then breastfeed after, which you may not get periods for up to over 6 months in time. So those scenarios, you actually find the endometriosis rebates. It basically starts to shrink because you're not bleeding on a monthly cycle.
Okay.
And that is one of the treatments in how we control endometriosis. We actually control the amount of bleeding that you have, so that hopefully the endometriotic deposits don't bleed and cause discomfort on a monthly basis.
And what happens when it doesn't get controlled?
So then your symptoms get worse. So sometimes with endometriosis, because you're bleeding internally, you can develop ovarian cysts. You can get presence of endometriotic tissue outside of the pelvis, so people may
Like,
get,
for example, attaching to the bladder and so?
attaching to the bladder. I've had patients where it attaches to the navel, so they bleed from their navel. Patients who have endometriosis in their lungs, so every month they get this cough and sometimes a buildup of blood inside their lung cavity. Yeah, there are rare cases where they do occur outside of the pelvis, and then you have to manage them and kind of control the amount of bleeding that they have on a monthly basis. You asked me with regards to subfertility or infertility. It doesn't necessarily make them infertile, it just makes it more difficult for them to get pregnant. So if I throw out a figure there, if you look at 15%, that means 85% will still get pregnant. But if you look at women attending fertility units, you may find a higher percentage of them suffering from endometriosis and fibroids.
Okay.
So even though it's a common disorder where 80% of the population have fibroids, only a small percentage, like 15%, may not sound that small. But then if you look at women actually attending the IVF centers and whatnot, a higher percentage of them will have endometriosis and fibroids.
So that's impacting on. Let's go now to that other stage, that menopausal stage. And what are some of the things impacting women most when it gets to menopause? Or do they fully understand when their bodies are getting toward menopause?
I think they understand. There are disruptions or changes in your menstrual cycle, and people do come to me in their mid-40s and ask me, am I going through perimenopause? Am I in early menopause? I found my periods become shorter, lighter. It is a transition. I mean, it's not something that happens overnight. You do get what we call the climacteric phase, where you start to develop some of the symptoms of menopause. And these symptoms may be hot flashes, mood swings. And I say that very lightly because we all know how lovely women can be, and we also know how moody they can be too as well.
Like dragons.
I'm not saying that. And then we do experience other symptoms like vaginal dryness, and this is all due to estrogen deficiency. Estrogen is that hormone that is responsible for making women the lovely creatures they are, allowing them to have the soft skin, the flowing hair, keeping their skin turgor up, their vagina moist. So when estrogen starts to decline, then you see a manifestation of these symptoms. It may not be full-blown hot flashes or mood swings or vaginal dryness, but women do detect a change in their body.
Okay, and the change is always something that's felt in terms of an emotional stance, or are there other physical factors that one might be able to see?
So it's a combination of both. There may be physical factors that women experience in terms of lubrication down below.
What about weight gain?
So as we get older, we do realize our metabolism, our way in which our body breaks down stuff, actually starts to slow. And they may experience weight gain with it. They may experience changes in mood. They may not feel as energetic, and they may not want to go and exercise. And then a contribution of all things put together, where your diet changes, you have that apathy, you don't want to go out, and then you become more sedentary, and I think it's multifactorial.
Okay.
So you don't necessarily have to have symptoms when you go through menopause. Some people transition from their reproductive age to menopause without there being any discomfort, any signs, symptoms, and they just notice that their periods stop.
Okay. Maybe that's the only good part about menopause?
The period stopping. Well, I think you all have become accustomed to it. I think you've become accustomed. What we do have challenges with is when women start having irregular periods around the menopausal time. What we call abnormal bleeding or irregular periods. And sometimes that may be a normal transition, but sometimes it may be also a sign that something is off.
Okay, because I've often heard older women talk about, they refer to it as the going in, and some people say their transition was smooth, others describe it as hell on earth in terms of how their body fluctuates, changes, and I don't know if it's scientifically proven, but there are also some women who speak to the idea of having emotional breakdowns.
Yes. So we tend to help support these women going through the menopausal or perimenopausal period, and we have good evidence with the use of hormone replacement therapy that we can actually alleviate a lot of these symptoms. So there was about 20 years ago a step backwards where we were concerned about using HRT or hormone replacement therapy, but we've shown that there's a lot of evidence out there that hormone replacement therapy is safe. And we can help women transition from the reproductive age into the menopausal period by supplementing them with things like estrogen and testosterone.
Okay.
And that can help the transition into a smoother and more comfortable menopause.
Okay. Younger women, say not 40s or 50s, but 30s, can they be thrown into early menopause, and what would cause it?
So you can get things that cause premature ovarian failure that can send you in. It's not common. I mean, women are born with, or girls are born with all their oocytes or eggs. And usually what you find on a monthly basis is after you reach the reproductive age, you start to use those eggs. And you're born with a set amount, and that usually carries you to the average age of menopause of 50 to 53. Obviously, the more kids you have, there are less times or less months you're ovulating, because when you're pregnant for 9 months, you're not ovulating, so your eggs are still kept in reserve. When you breastfeed, 6 months to a year, you're still keeping eggs in reserve. So the average age of menopause is 50 to 53. But we've actually seen women who've had multiple kids, it push it a little bit further. Those who don't have any kids, you might get it a little bit younger.
Okay, we have a call on the line. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yes, go ahead with your question.
My daughter has fibroids, and when she first had them, they were like lined. But now they have grown bigger, and she's still waiting over 5 years for the operation.
Okay.
Okay, so as I did mention, that a lot of women have uterine fibroids, and uterine fibroids, as we mentioned, are benign growths of the myometrium of the uterus. A lot more information I would need to help determine what the best treatment for that young lady is, but fibroids growing, obviously causing symptoms, does necessitate removal. Obviously, if she's not completed her childbearing, then the type of removal will influence.
Differ?
Yeah, will differ. Yes. So,
Okay.
So obviously, if we have somebody who is reached the end of their fertile period and they don't want any more kids, and they're symptomatic of their fibroids, and the fibroids are quite large and growing, you may then opt to do a hysterectomy, where you remove the uterus with the fibroids. Obviously, if this young lady wants to have children now, you'd want to just remove the fibroids themselves, preserve the uterus to allow them to conceive and have a baby later on in life.
Okay, quite interesting morning. I have been talking with Dr. Vikas Chatrani. I want to thank you for coming on the
Thank
program for us to discuss cervical cancer and a number of other things that impact women and their reproductive health. Again, we want to thank him. We want to thank our caller. We'll be right back after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Kids Karaoke is a platform for young aspiring singers to shine and express their musical abilities. Tune in to CBC TV 8 on Mondays at 5:30 p.m. and repeat it on Saturdays at 2 p.m. and enjoy the performances of these talented young singers.
For the past 19 years, QFM has been sharing with you, learning from you, and together building a community for all mature audiences. That's why we say Q is good for you. To our Q family, we say thank you for staying connected to Q 100.7 FM. QFM is a station of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. CBC, celebrating 60, connecting Barbadian communities.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And good morning to you. I'm Wendy Burke with your morning news recap. With hundreds of people flying into Barbados for the recently concluded FinTech Islands Conference, the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. is promoting the island as the ultimate destination for conferences. Crystal Hoyt has more.
The Barbados Tourism and Marketing Inc. continues to cement Barbados as a year-round destination, not just for vacations, but for business.
Well, conferences on the whole are extremely important. The entire MICE market, which is the meetings, incentives, conferences, and events, is really and truly a good platform for us to always leverage our tourism industry, and our tourism experiences. And these conferences help us to create Barbados as an all-season destination. And we anticipate that we'll have a lot more conferences this year.
She says conferences are big business for tourism.
If you think about the fact that for every conference you have about 400 or 500 people on island, and you have about 15, 20 big conferences per year, that tells you that it really and truly delves into actual spend on island in terms of increasing the spend on island, but also increasing the opportunities for persons to be able to traverse the island, experience the island, and bring their relatives and family back for a real vacation.
Dana Gilbert, Director of Groups, Conventions and Special Events at Wyndham Grand Barbados, Sam Lawrence Castle, says they have adequate accommodation to meet the demand.
Wyndham was actually designed with this type of clientele in mind, so we're aggressively going after the MICE market, which is the meetings, incentives, conventions and events. So as you can see, our conference facility is the largest in this hemisphere, and we are able to do accommodation plus conference packages in one. So we are really the mecca for these types of businesses. We've been getting a resounding amount of leads coming in. People are requesting to do conferences of up to 1,000 people, so we're exploring all possibilities.
A number of conferences are expected on island in 2024. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
Troops in the Belize Defense Force continue to train for possible deployment to Haiti as a part of a multinational task force. But recent developments where Kenya's High Court ruled against the plan has Belizeans questioning what next. Minister of State in the Ministry of Defense, Oscar Mira, says all the training was undertaken in Belize.
We have Canadian forces here in the country who are giving us that training. At the beginning, we have a list of 50 personnel. We will train more so that we have a pool of BDF officers who can be deployed to Haiti. But that training is happening here in country. It's not happening somewhere else. There has not been a decision as yet as to deployment to Haiti. CARICOM is still looking, and CARICOM is still deciding when would be the best. We want to ensure that our soldiers are well prepared, that the soldiers that are deployed are well trained, they have all the equipment and have everything that they need before a decision is made. A decision has not been made yet, but as the BDF does, they are preparing in the eventuality that the cabinet decides that we are going to deploy. BDF is already prepared and trained.
In Guyana, the former minister of the Ministry of Public Health, Dr. Karen Cummins, has strongly criticized the government for recruiting foreign nurses. She says it could have provided improved remuneration packages and additional benefits to local nurses. HBTV has more.
Opposition Member of Parliament Dr. Karen Cummins, in her budget debate, urged the government to holistically address the nationwide shortage of nurses. Dr. Cummins said recruiting foreign nurses is merely a quick fix to this dire situation.
The call by this government to address this shortage of nurses by bringing foreigners nurses is unacceptable. This government has no respect for the judiciary. and certainly no respect for the nurses. They are not on the side of our healthcare workers.
While acknowledging infrastructural developments in the health sector, Cummins pointed out that without a sufficient quota of nurses and doctors to fill the void, citizens will not be better off.
We know that Guyana has been going through a personnel crisis with nurses and doctors leaving in droves. Failing to acknowledge the root cause of this crisis, which is a need for competitive wages, the government has imprudently announced 6 new hospital projects.
Dr. Cummins also highlighted the crucial need for urgent attention to be placed on added incentives for midwives and addressing socioeconomic factors affecting maternal health, promoting equality and emphasizing the importance a father plays in the life of a child, were among other areas the MP says must be given priority.
And finally, classes will continue online for the remainder of the week for teachers and students of the Lodge School. That's because it's allowing for easier work to coordinate between the 2 cleaning companies and will assist in the completion of the work as soon as possible. The Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training thanks parents and guardians of the students for their understanding at this time. Coming up on Morning Barbados, we'll be talking to the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados. Yes, we'll be hearing from Greta Yearwood, the interim CEO, and Dr. Dawn Canterbury, the medical director at the foundation.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
For the past 19 years, QFM has been sharing with you, learning from you, and together building a community for all mature audiences. That's why we say Q is good for you. To our Q family, we say thank you for staying connected to Q 100.7 FM. QFM is a station of the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation. CBC, celebrating 60, connecting Barbadian communities.
Are you a youth group, 4-H club, school, Cub Scout or Brownie Pack, or any organization or club with children ages 4 to 11 years? If yes is the answer, then we at Fun School, we're looking for you. Let's have fun singing, dancing, listening to amazing stories, doing craft, and so much more. I'm such a kid at heart. But to be part of this fun and exciting new season of Fun School, just simply send an email to Alicia Alves Grant at aa.grant@cbc.bb for further details. Fun School is back, and we're looking for you.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And we're back. Yes, we're going to be speaking now with Greta Yearwood, the Interim Chief Executive Officer at the Heart and Stroke Foundation, as well as Dr. Dawn Canterbury, the Medical Director there. Good morning and welcome, ladies.
Good morning and thank you.
Now, we're here to talk about your Wear Red Month awareness campaign of the Go Red for Women. What is that all about, Greta?
The Wear Red campaign is the campaign that we have been participating in for the last about 10 years. It started in America in 2014, all towards the heart, women suffering from heart and stroke disease. So that is where that campaign came about from, and we in Barbados have adopted the support to that campaign.
Now, Dr. Canterbury, how significant is the risk and then the cases among our women in terms of heart issues and strokes?
So cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death in men, women, everybody worldwide, and it's the same in Barbados. So yes, it's a significant issue. It's what's going to statistically going to kill you as a woman in Barbados. So I know we spoke about cervical cancer earlier and the successes that we have had with treating cervical cancer and decreasing death from cervical cancer. We are nowhere near that in heart disease. So and some of it is they're multifactorial. There is this perception that heart disease, one, is a man's disease. So there is that question. So, we're speaking of heart disease in women, but it's a man's disease. Why are we speaking of it? But no, it's a woman's disease as well. This is the number one cause of death in women. And then there's also the perception that is a disease of the elderly. And unfortunately, when we look at the most Barbados National Registry data, we can see that heart attacks, which is the central disease of all the cardiovascular diseases, we're starting to see those heart attacks in Barbados at an earlier age. Yes.
How much earlier?
So we've had this shift from so in men, peaks in cardiovascular or heart attack presentations in the 60s, women in the 70s, we've had a shift down a decade. So now that peak in men is, late 40s into the 50s, and women late 50s into the 60s. So, everybody speaks about the lifestyle that we have and our progressively more unhealthy lifestyle. It is unfortunately bearing negative fruit, and we're seeing more heart disease, we're seeing more strokes, and we're seeing it at an earlier age.
Okay, if I can come back to Greta now in terms of the actual campaign for the month of February, what are some of the things you're going to be undertaking, and when is it that I should wear red?
Okay, well, the month of February is actually Health Month, is regarded as Health Month, and so we start the ball rolling from Friday this week, where we're asking, Friday 2nd February, we're asking all companies, all employees to wear their red. You can dress your building up in red, and every Friday after that we will be wearing our red in support of women suffering from heart disease. Also on the 17th of February, we will have our men and women the men dressed in women clothing, the house harriers. They're going to be running in support of
that's the one
with
the heels and the hats.
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll be starting from around the Perron complex there in Worthing, around 3:30, and we're going to circle down to lanterns around that John Hastings area and back to
Okay. Do they need to register or just turn up with heels in hand?
Turn up with your heels, your hat, your mini skirts, your mini dresses, your pants, and support the house harriers with the Heart and Stroke Foundation in support of the Bear Red. Also then on February 21st, Dr. Dawn will be on that panel too, where we're looking at better health in the community. It's a panel discussion that we held at the Lauderdale in Sandyford from 6:30 in the evening.
So we want everyone to come on now. Now, Dr. Scanterbury, in terms of heeding the message and individuals whom you see at the foundation when they come in, are they really heeding the message?
The vast majority of the people that we see at the foundation are actually coming in after an event. So our core program is cardiac rehabilitation, which is a program designed to get people back on their feet after they've had a cardiac event. And, our numbers are burgeoning. These people have had events. Unfortunately, they may not have heeded the message, and that's why we are seeing them. We do have a primary prevention program, which is less well subscribed, so I can say
we need to step back.
So we are pretty much not heeding the message. We really aren't. I was on the road the other day, and the amount of obesity, the amount of, the amount of cars that we see. When I go walking in the morning, the paucity of people walking on the road with me. There is just. There's so much evidence out there that in Barbados we're not heeding the message of the need to be healthy. So this Heart Month, I would encourage everyone, it's not just about wearing red for heart disease, both in men and women. It's also about making a commitment to your health, making a commitment to your heart health, and realizing that out of all the things out there that are likely to cause morbidity and mortality, death and disability, cardiovascular disease is your highest likelihood. And the way you can do it, most of these things are reversible. Most of these things are preventable. Move more. Eat healthy, eat more fruits and vegetables. If you have these risk factors, diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, address those with your doctor, manage them aggressively. Don't smoke. Look at your sleep patterns. Those are the things that we need to do to reduce our overall risk.
Okay. There's a concern I have, and I'm not sure how much can be done about it, but I'm now seeing a lot more people who have suffered strokes and so on. I'm seeing a lot more people using mobility aids. And when you look at them, or if you do happen to know them, you realize that this person isn't yet 35.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we do have that stroke risk. So stroke is an interesting disease. It's we talk about the lifestyle diseases and atherosclerotic disease. So there is that, and that's the vast majority of stroke. But there is that small subsegment of strokes that can occur in younger women who have other kinds of conditions, such as lupus and other autoimmune conditions. And then there are people who can get strokes as a result of things like aneurysms, and that can be a familial problem. Sickle cell disease is a risk factor for stroke. So a stroke essentially just means you've had a vascular catastrophe essentially in the brain, where you either have a clot in a blood vessel or a blood vessel has burst and caused damage to the brain tissue. And of course, going back to the issue of cholesterol plaques and atherosclerotic disease, all of that stuff that I spoke about, the diabetes, hypertension, those are the top risk factors for that category of stroke.
Okay. Now, the doctor mentioned that the prevention program could be stepped up, Rita. This is now 2024. What more can be done in terms of how you send your message out, how you create greater advocacy, not just among our women, but among our population generally?
Well, I would say that looking at the persons coming into our gym, yes, that's a part of the advocacy education. Yeah, a lot of we go into the community, we put out a lot of education to the general public. Also, taking control, as the doctor said. So I see educating the public more as one of the areas for, getting people to be more involved in their situation, their current health situation.
Are you going to alter the mode of the message as opposed to, say, the pamphlets and the seminars? Are we going to try to reach them, say, via your Instagram account, your Facebook?
Well, that is where we have a lot of our information on our social media platforms. We are IG page, our website, our Twitter, on our Facebook pages. So we do try to get education out material out to the public through those various platforms.
Okay.
And if they come to our rehab department, then they can access some of our material there.
Information. Okay. So you're not alone. Connect with a strong community. The Barbados Heart and Stroke Foundation, well, the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados is there to help you. And remember, as the month of February draws near, wear red. Every Friday in February, we will be wearing red. I want to thank Ms. Greta Yearwood, the interim CEO, as well as Dr. Dawn Canterbury, the medical director at that foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Morning Barbados will be back after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Are you a youth group, 4-H club, school, Cub Scout or Brownie Pack, or any organization or club with children ages 4 to 11 years? If yes is the answer, then we at Fun School, we're looking for you. Let's have fun singing, dancing, listening to amazing stories, doing craft, and so much more. I'm such a kid at heart. But to be part of this fun and exciting new season of Fun School, just simply send an email to Alicia Alves Grant at aa.grant@cbc.bb for further details. Fun School is back, and we're looking for you.
One more river, there's one more river to cross.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
And we're back. We're going to be looking at an area of technology now, and that area of data privacy challenges. I have with me the head of cyber and technology with KPMG, Mr. Ravi Sandkar. We're going to be looking at those data privacy challenges and what are they. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Wendy. Thank you very much for having me here.
Now, yesterday marked Data Privacy Day. What does that really mean? What is data privacy, and are we all entitled to it in this cyber world?
So yes, in a short answer, data privacy is a fundamental human right. And I think that's where it started. And I think the core behind it is that, we need to be responsible for our own information. And as we see technology advancements where all of a sudden you've been browsing, looking at something, next thing you know, you have hundreds of ads for whatever it is you were looking for. So I'm looking for a watch, I'm getting all kinds of adverts for it.
Okay.
It means people have scraped my search and they've now tailored it and sold that information on. And so it's very important that we take back control of our own information.
Okay, so are you looking for your glasses right now?
No.
Because you have them up here.
I always have them up here because I'm blind as you can be.
Well, let us see each other clearly this morning, Mr. Sankar. Now, in response to some of the data breaches and challenges, there are growing concerns among the population about it, not only as individuals, but some businesses as well. So what are some tips that can help us to effectively protect that data?
Okay, so first thing, we have to take responsibility. So we as individuals need to be responsible. It's always great to cast the blame and say, oh, it's the IT department, they're responsible. But you need to behave in a manner that also, you need to be very conscious of what you're doing. So a good example, when you see those links or those adverts that are too good to be true, oh, I've just won a prize, or don't click on it, especially when you're in your corporate network. So take responsibility for your actions. Also take responsibility for what you share on social media. What people don't realize is that we're always looking at information. So for instance, people go onto Facebook, they talk about their kids. Oh, I love my kids, and they post all these wonderful pictures. But I can start to create an image of you, your contacts, and from there I can start to figure out your PIN number, your passwords, the questions to your banking. The banks ask you what's your first address, what's your favorite pet, and I tell people,
name of your firstborn, and
correct,
stuff like
and it's all listed, and you're giving that information out to hackers for free. So what I tell people is, yes, you want people to say happy birthday to you, but change the year. You want people to
so you want me to lie online?
I don't want you to lie. I just want you to stretch a little bit, So I tend to make myself a couple of years younger just to be happy when I'm out there. But this is information that's in the public domain. And you need to be very, very careful how you share that. And I think this responsibility is something that people need to sort of accept, that, there's a much wider audience. And what people also think, especially here in Barbados or in the Caribbean, we tend to think, well, we're so small, we're not part of anything. Why would people care what I share? But that's not true.
But I think we found that's not to be, because look at how many businesses we've seen having their data breached, having their inventory changed, having things moved around that actually impacted on the flow of business.
Correct. And like I said, we don't live isolated. We're part of a supply chain. So we're interacting with Visa, MasterCard. We're interacting with large organizations. And you're only as good as your weakest link. So again, businesses need to be aware of it, and individuals need to be aware of it and how to protect themselves online.
Okay. Now, I'm glad you came to that, and we were talking about the money and the cards and so on, because there are a number of people who from time to time suffer from identity theft, and you would see them then post a notice somewhere else saying it's not them. If you receive this, it's not them. You have the banks coming out saying we at such and such did not issue any notices to have customers do a survey. You know, the hackers are getting more and more savvy.
They are, and it's not as difficult as people make it out to be. So it's very easy to spoof pages.
Spoof? What?
Just create a fake page. I've seen, you know, a great example of a bank, www. Let's take, you know, whatever bank you want, where they just change the font. So, you know, let's say they put the A in a different italic. Now, very hard to see the difference, but it's taking you to a completely different page that would mirror your bank's page. So they are smart, and there you're going to now put in your username, you're going to put in your password, and now I've captured that information, and now I'm able to access your account. You know, because again, these are secure. But in fairness to the banks are very proactive, and you know, and I will say that they're at the front of this fight against things like this. So you know, they are very, very active in defending your accounts. But you have to be responsible. As individuals,
okay.
Correct.
So can you explain to our viewers what the critical importance of data protection is in today's increasing digital landscape? Because I think some people think it might just be somebody changing your Instagram profile or whatever to talk to your friends or to get more likes or just to stop you from having access. But of course it goes beyond that, doesn't it?
It does. It takes me into your corporate network. But more importantly, you know, it has a dollar value. So I think people don't realize when we have these, you know, 15 million users were breached and their data is up for sale, you know, that has a concrete dollar value, you know, and I think this is the important part. Your information and your personal information has value to someone where they can use it, whether it's to get credit cards or to get money or to scam your friends. And we're seeing that with generative AI. We're seeing where people are actually taking little snippets. So here you are on TV, we know your voice, and we can actually mimic your voice and have you call someone with your identical voice saying, oh, I need help, can you give me $100, can you give me $1,000? And we're seeing cases of this coming up with the new technology as it emerges. So we're telling people, be overly cautious. If it's something you don't expect, you know, hang up and call back. You know, use the number that you know, try to figure out, is this real?
Yeah, why would I be calling from London?
Correct. You know, and we're seeing this more and more, and I think people need to be aware. But we're also seeing the legislation follow, and we're seeing, you know, the Caribbean is very active in the space. You know, Barbados implemented their act, Jamaica has their act in play, and we're seeing several territories actually start to take control now and place emphasis on privacy, you know, and transparency. And like I said, that's a core part of what we're seeing out there. But it isn't just technology, you know, it's also the pen and paper. So, you know, something as simple as, you know, how many of us have printed documents and left them on the printer? Things like a CV. Well, you know, that's a data breach. If somebody else picks up your pile of paper and now you've exposed someone's information out that wasn't supposed to go to that person. So again, we have to be fully aware of medical records, which is highly sensitive, or school information, children. You know, those are special categories. These are minors. So you have to, again, protect that information and take extra steps in order to secure that. So I think we need to be very conscious of it. And I find that, you know, a lot of organizations are now waking up to it. So they are actually realizing that this information needs to be protected, you know, and I'm very careful, especially with medical, with kids, you know. You have to make sure that, you know, that you take those steps, whether it's putting it in a cabinet, you know, whether it's turning off your computer when you leave it. Okay. You know, how many times have you walked away from your desk with the computer on? Everything is running.
That's true. We don't always close out our
correct. So even when you're just walking away, just lock your computer down.
And the other thing too, because like sometimes when we interface, what are some of the challenges in interfacing your personal info with your system at the office? So, because like for sometimes, like I might use WhatsApp web to get information that comes to my phone into the system at work a little faster.
So again, challenges. WhatsApp is a good example of it. You know, under GDPR, for instance, when you see that single tick, it means your data is residing in a server in the US. So you're in violation of GDPR. It's left the European Union, and it's now sitting in the US, even if it's there for 3, 4, 5 seconds before it's delivered back to the EU. So again, we have to be aware. So a lot of companies said, WhatsApp, no, sorry, you cannot use it for corporate information. You cannot use that for business. Okay. You can use it personally, but be aware that you're in violation of the law simply because it is exiting the EU and being routed back. So, you know, there are challenges, and we have to be very aware of the type of applications we're using at home and what we're bringing into the office. Now, a lot of companies have started implementing bring your own device policies, which means that they will restrict you using your personal laptop into the corporate environment. Okay. Or they will tell you, great, you want to use your private laptop, absolutely fine, but we have to manage it. We have to make sure that the right antivirus is on it. We have to make sure that it's secure. We will control the applications that go on it. We'll control the websites you visit, you know, because we need to protect our corporate systems. And I think this is something that we're becoming more conscious of. But you talk about your laptop being the, you know, something that you use, but your telephone also carries a lot of corporate information, you know, and again needs to be protected. How many of us receive emails from our office? You know, so again, we need to take steps to protect that.
Or we might have to go on an online meeting. If we're between the office, you know, we might just decide, let's put the Zoom on the phone.
Correct. And so these are things that need to be protected. You know, so what you're seeing is a lot of businesses are taking proactive approaches, and the technology is there. You know, the technology is there to support the businesses. So as long as people are willing to, you know, and know that these are the measures that need to be taken, then I think we are evolving into a more secure environment.
Okay, and I'm happy to hear that we're becoming more secure, because the average person is not in a position to pay anyone to get their information back, and we don't even know who it is or how to trace them.
Absolutely, but also don't believe everything that you see coming to you threatening you. So I received an email a few months ago that said, okay, we've caught you doing things, we have pictures of you, you know, this is not your lucky day, pay $25,000. Now I burst out laughing. Imagine they're going to send this out to 1 million people, and it only takes 3-4 people who might really be paranoid and pay, and that's 100,000 that a hacker has earned. But this, by sending out this email saying we've corrupted your systems, we've taken pictures of you on your phone or on your laptop, don't believe everything that's out there. This is ways of playing on people. But we do need to be careful. So, you know, we use protective things on our screens, etc. I think there are measures you can take, you know, but it is out there, and people will target you.
But there are also instances where they are successful, and
Absolutely.
You might find that you want to get on your system and access it, and you're going to see a message come up, you know, with somebody saying they've taken control of it, they have whatever, and you may then try to go to your IT or whoever and realize, yes, this is actually happening. Should we always respond to them in that way? Should we?
No, don't respond, don't pay. What you need now is robust policies in place. So for instance, making sure your backups are functional, done timely, and work. So regular testing of your backups is critical. So not just to store, but just to make sure you're testing it. I spoke to some hackers, and they said the first thing we're going to do is we're going to corrupt your backup. Then we're going to sit 6 months, and you're just going to keep restoring your corrupted backup every day, thinking everything is wonderful. Then we lock you out of your system, and guess what? When you go to your backup, it doesn't work. So again, regular testing of your backups is critical. So businesses need to understand that in case something like this happens, you can actually go to your backup and that it works.
Okay. I want to thank you so much for coming this morning, Mrs. Ankar, the head of cyber and technology at KPMG Jamaica, and we were discussing the data privacy challenges. So he's made you aware of a number of things. Take those tips to heed and change it, people. Morning Barbados will be back in a bit.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Ofar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
Oh, hi. My name is Stacia Whitaker, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and a member of the Heart and Stroke Childhood Obesity Prevention Coalition. My motto is, when in doubt, leave it out, and it goes for when I'm eating, because sometimes things have ingredients that we're not sure of, and I like to keep it simple. And if I'm eating something and I'm not sure the ingredients in that particular thing, then I choose to leave it out. So I keep my snacking simple with fruit, nuts, or just water. It's easy to remember, there's no added ingredients, and it's also very nutritious. So remember, childhood obesity is real, so choose healthier alternatives.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Now, on Thursday last week, we had recently seen Yaya Mclean, the actor, producer, and 2 times WBU cruiserweight champion of the world. He was recently in Barbados. Morning Barbados got a chance to have a conversation with him and about his life's journey. To date, his biggest acting role has been playing that of Damien Anderson. He starred alongside Jonathan Majors in Creed 3. Now, this role is one which he felt 100% at home with, and talking about his career, his childhood, his mother. Now, we're going to get to hear from him once again for part 2 in terms of how 2 major life-changing events happened to him in the year 2021. Here's Yaya Mclean.
In 2021, unfortunately, what happened?
Well, my older brother, so I was in Atlanta. My mother lives in Vegas. My older brother lived in West Virginia, but he was in Vegas, spending time with my mother. And then he got COVID or whatever, and he was quarantining in my mother's house. And he got real sick. And they called me and told me that he was getting put on the intubator or whatever. And so I jumped on the plane and flew to Vegas, because my brother was like 5'9", 250. So he was really big to begin with. So when he was on that machine, I knew I had to get there. So I jumped on the plane, landed there. And when I got there, he was already, his pulse was going down. It was really looking bad. And so, you know, we were all just praying for him. And then my mother started saying that she couldn't breathe. Now, I didn't want to go stay at their house because that's where everything was. So I had a friend, and I stayed at his house. And then they told me that my mother couldn't walk, and she was having a hard time breathing. And I thought she was just stressing. So I went, and I had one of my friends help me, and her husband was there. And I went to the house, and I just went in. I put a mask on and went in and picked my mother up, took her outside, and we walked her outside and helped her, and then she started breathing a little better. And she said she was feeling better. She said she was feeling a little better, but then she said that if my brother, she called my brother, his nickname was Bald. She said, if Bald don't make it, I don't think I am.
What was your reaction to that? Take your time. Take your time.
It was rough. It was rough to see my mother crying like that, and then she started having trouble breathing again. Well, no, she didn't have trouble breathing again until after I left. So I stayed for a while, and I didn't want to stay in the house too much, and I left. And no, we took the whatever I forget what it's called now, the pulse thing that you check with. We took the one that we were using on my brother, and we put it on her and checked her. And I think she was fine at the time, or then we left. I just know I had to leave, and I ended up leaving. And next thing I know, my mother is being taken to the hospital, and now she's on the machine. And so we, back and forth every day, and they're in 2 different hospitals. And me and her husband and my younger brother came out there. And then, my friends, because, everybody knew my mother and my brother. My brother was a coach to everybody's kids. So it was rough. Going to the hospital every day. And I wasn't doing none of this then because I had to be tough for everybody else, I had to be tough for everybody else, so I wasn't doing none of this the other day. During that time, I was strong, and I was able to go from one hospital to the next, and then some of my friends, mainly really my brother's friends, but we all had the same friends pretty much.
Okay.
And because we were all same close in age. And they all would come and we would have vigils and everybody would be praying and all different religions out there praying.
So that has got to have had a real massive effect on your life from that moment on.
So
how
what
did
it
change you?
What it did was, now I've always lived my life like, not like it's my last day, but I've always lived like, whatever I want to do, I'm going to go for mine. As long as I'm not hurting anybody or doing something that's against the law or spiritually or wrong or morally wrong, then I'm going to go for mine. But when this happened, it just reassured how much we don't have no promises. Nothing is promised. And so at that point, I just made up my mind that I got to live every day like it's my last. But to make matters worse, my brother, so I ended up burying my brother December 27th. January 2nd, I buried my mother. January 2nd, my wife called me and told me she had COVID. She was still in Atlanta. So I put my mother in the ground and got on the plane, and I bought a hazmat suit because at this point I'm all the way freaked out. And I went in the house with a full hazmat suit, spraying everything, and I went and found my wife, and and took care of her for the next couple of days, and thank God she's good. And then, like a few days later, I got the audition for Creed movie, and I didn't feel like doing no audition like that. I was like, man, I'm not doing this. But then I started thinking, I could hear my mother. What? Oh, you gonna try? I'm doing her finger like this. What? Oh, you gonna try, ninja? You gonna try? And I started thinking that my mother took me to the boxing gym when I was 10 years old. She also took us, all of us, as a family, to see Rocky 1, the first Rocky movie. She took us all together. And Rocky 2, we boxing was our thing. So for me to not audition for this movie would have been crazy. And so I just could hear them telling me, and my brother was at all my fights, and I could just hear them telling me, you got to do it. So I just told my wife, babe, I'll be right back. Go down the street, and I think I just went to the gym, gave the dude my cell phone, got in the boxing ring. There was nobody in the corner. And I just said, let's go, man. Keep your hands up, you know what to do. And I just did the audition and sent it in and booked the role.
Which changed your life.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
So what it did was, it put me, it kicked my acting back up. At one point in time, I was acting a lot, and then I stopped. This brought me back up. Now I'm back in it full time. But what happened was, once I booked that part, see, now you know when you get an audition, you get 2 sheets of pages or 3 pages or whatever, and you don't really know the storyline or anything else that's going on. So I didn't get to read the script.
Okay.
And when I booked that part, it was supposed to be for 2 days. I was supposed to be on set for only 2 days. For the first scene when Jonathan Majors fought the Mexican Jose Benavidez, when he fought him, that was supposed to be the only scene. Then the Jonathan Majors character, Damien, had a whole new corner. And so while I was on set, I had a lot of downtime. Someone put the script in my trailer. So I read it. Thank God I did. Because when I read it is when I saw that I was only supposed to work for I already knew I was only supposed to work for 2 days. But when I read the script, I realized why. And I was like, what do you mean he got a whole new corner? So, excuse me. So I went to Michael B. Jordan, who I didn't know from anywhere. And I said, bro, let me talk to you for a minute. I said, this right here, I just read the script. I said, I've been fighting since I was 10 years old. I'm a former 2-time world champion boxer. I've been around boxing all my life, around the greats. And this is something right here that's in this script would never happen. There's no way that a fighter would win a world title and get rid of his whole corner and start over with somebody else. And he goes, you know what? Let me think about that. And I said, all right. He came back the next day. He goes, we're going to make that happen. And then they changed it. And I went from me being on the script for 2 days to being on the script for almost a whole year. We took like a 4-month break and then we came back. But it was a huge, huge change in my role, in my career, in everything. And that's because now I am once again realizing and moving in that way that, life is just too short.
Y'all living a good life. 2 kids and a wife. Foreign car, private school, nice house in the gated community.
This is really what allows me to go on and make it through life no matter what happens. And that is, man plans and God plans. And God is the best of planners. And as long as I remind myself of that, I don't get disappointed, discouraged, and want to quit at anything that I'm doing because I know it all happens in due time. But everyone would look from the outside and say, oh, he was in Creed, he's about to blow up. That would be the thought. But what happened during Creed, right after Creed, was the strike. So when the SAG strike happened, that shut down all the work. So you take a year or whatever it was, out of a year and a half of no work, a lot of people have forgotten who Yaya Mclean was or who Damian Anderson's trainer was in Creed. So now, I'm not going to say I'm starting from scratch, starting all over, but I've been knocked back down a few, I feel. And so it's, it's back to the grind, back to the hustle. But I don't wait on anybody to give me anything, so I create my own. And that's what I've done,
So what are you creating now?
Well, I have a film out right now that's on Tubi. It's called Cigar. And it's C.I.G.A.R. And it's a drama. It's about corruption, intellect, greed, and robbery. And I wrote it, directed it, produced it, and starred in it. And it's on Tubi now. But I also have another project. I have a documentary that's going to be on Tubi any day now. It's called Casualties of War, Warriors Against the Regime. And it's about parental alienation and corruption in the family law court system. And I think that it's coming out at the perfect time because so many celebrities are now dealing with the issue of baby mama drama or not being able to see their children or being charged outrageous child support, things like that. And, you know, this has been going on forever, but it doesn't really get noticed until you have a big celebrity or someone like that in political office for it to hit them and affect them, and then they understand what it is. But that's a whole nother subject.
The sidebar, your co-star, Mr. Major, has had his challenges in the last few months or so. What is he like as a person?
So
when you was working with him?
Right. So all I can speak to is the man that he presented to me on set every day. He was a super hard-working, dedicated to his craft, decent individual. We never had any problems, and you know, he didn't know me from anywhere either. And I'm yelling at him, telling him what to do and all that. And he's an actor, he's a professional, and he handled himself as such. And that was it. We got along great. You know, he made a couple calls and, you know, talked to some people for me and helped me do some things. Great guy. That's all I know, is he's a great guy.
So, the future for Mr. Mclean, what are you hoping for?
I'm working on a project right now that my wife, and earlier I said Auntie Earlene, but it's Auntie Pearline. But in the short that I just shot, Auntie Pearline's character is Auntie Earlene. So I wrote a short. I wrote a feature actually, but then I shot a short version of it. And now I've written 4 episodes so that it's going to be a holiday episode. So basically what it is I'm a Muslim, my wife and her family are Christian, and there's a lot of shenanigans that go along with that. And so I did the project is about a Muslim marrying a Christian during the Christmas time and the holidays and all the stuff that goes along with it. And it shows how it can be done with mutual respect for each other. And like I said, this is our 10th anniversary. And initially, everyone was like, oh, wait till your Auntie Pearline find out. And Auntie Pearline and I, she right there, she took me here. She cooked every day for us. We get along great. I mean, and so it just shows that. But in the series, it's going to show, you know, it starts at Thanksgiving and ends on New Year's. So it shows, and the fact that her family's from Barbados, and a lot of them are living in Brooklyn. I'm from New York, from Queens. So it's a whole bunch of culture clashes. I have a book on Amazon. It's called And Still. You know, like the winner and still. But also, everything that I've been through, I'm still here.
What's the book about?
My life is my memoirography. And I'm working on more.
Okay. What would you want to be known for?
I would want to be known for a great guy that loved to fight. No, I'm joking. I would want to be known as a great guy, a humble guy that showed love, that showed mutual respect to everyone, but a guy that had no problem going for his, that was not afraid to go for his, to step out on faith and do whatever it is that he wanted to do, and that had no problem helping somebody else to go for theirs as well.
And a tough guy with a tender heart.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I really appreciated talking to you. And I'm sorry I made you cry. That was not my intention.
No, it's all good. Look, real men cry.
Yes, that is true.
Real men cry.
And that is so very true. Real men do cry. A look into the life of Yaya Mclean, the second part of it. And as you see, stars and sports people, they're human too. Morning Barbados will be back after the break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
The facts say Morning Barbados reaches an audience of over 50,000 and Newsnight reaches over 56,000. It's simple. When you advertise, you're getting your message to over 50,000 of your potential customers. Make the call to CBC Sales Department today and watch your business grow. Contact us at 467-5559 or email marketing@cbc.bb. From the beautiful shores of the gem of the Caribbean, Barbados, home of the amazing Harrison's Cave, the tantalizing Oystins Bay Garden, our historic garrison, the indigenous road tennis, and the friendliest people in the world. We are 94.7 FM, the ultimate Bajan experience.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kia Lewis, General Practitioner and Healthy Lifestyle Advocate. Good nutrition starts at home. So this school year, I want you to consider packing healthy, nutritious snacks and lunches for your children to carry, rather than having them buy them at school. And don't just pack things you think they should have. Have a discussion and come up with things that you both know they will enjoy.
We enjoy a game of dominoes and singing karaoke.
I just love crew.
When you love me just a little bit longer.
You get to relax and have a drink and listen to some nice music. It's something different.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Yes, we've had a great morning this morning. We first heard from Dr. Chatrani, Dr. Vikas Chatrani. He told us all about cervical cancer. We also dealt with some other disorders which the females may have and how we're looking to address those. Remember, early detection helps to save lives. We would have also spoken with the Barbados Heart and Stroke Foundation. They're talking to us about their Wear Red campaign for women. There are going to be a number of activities during the month of February. So just remember, every Friday, come on out in your red. Also this morning, we'd have gotten a chance to talk about data protection. Yes, we want to thank Ravi Sankar of KPMG for joining us this morning from the CARICOM office to talk all about what we need to do, the simple things they are, and not revealing too much of your information so that the hackers can't track you and create a profile which they can then mimic. We had a great morning. It was good seeing Yaya Mclean again as well. And his tears almost brought me to tears, but we were able to withstand. Just goes to show we're all human in this process. Now, tomorrow's show, we're going to have quite a bit in store for you. But remember, February is coming up. Yes, we're going to be in February quite soon, and that's the month of AgroFest. So coming to us tomorrow morning is going to be the CEO of the BAS, Mr. James Paul, and we're going to be talking AgroFest 2024. So that and a lot more to look forward to in tomorrow's show. I urge you to join us tomorrow morning. A terrific Tuesday we'll be having here on Morning Barbados. So on behalf of the crew and myself, Wendy Burke, do have a marvelous Monday.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.